Hello YouTube, Dave here again, and welcome to my video. This is going to be a first impressions on the Out of the Abyss campaign that was released recently by Wizards of the Coast. I guess the official release date for it to be widely available is September 15th, so it hasn't, I guess, officially launched yet. However, I was able to get my hands on a copy of this. I pre-ordered it a couple months ago. And I just got a notification that it had shipped out just a few days ago. This is not the copy that was shipped out, but I did go to my local bookstore there. It's a Kohl's bookstore, which is, I think, just a Canadian chain. But I was there. They actually had this on the shelf, and I just went up and asked if there's any chance that my order had arrived. I had placed an order before for a book, actually this one here, which I had ordered online. They said they would send me a notification when the book arrived, and I never got that notification. It's still saying, you know, we'll notify once the book has arrived, so I've had that for quite a while, so I thought there might be a slight chance that maybe my order had come in. Anyway, it hadn't. It's still in transit, but they actually did a great thing for me, and they allowed me to take the one copy they had in the store, because I had done the pre-order, and basically once they get the original or the copy that they had shipped out for me, they'll just put it on the shelf. So that was really cool of them, really fantastic. So I just want to thank the people at Kohl's who did that for me, because it was, you know, pretty easy for them just to say, you know, you have to sit and wait until your copy arrives. So this is really fantastic. I've been looking forward to getting this for quite a while. I haven't had a chance to read it thoroughly yet, so this is not a full review by any stretch of the imagination. I want you to take everything that I say in this video with sort of a grain of salt, because it could change once I actually have a chance to sit down and thoroughly read everything. So without further ado, we'll talk a little bit about this particular campaign. So it's actually the third campaign that's been released by Wizards so far. The first one to be released was actually two books. The Tyranny of Dragons campaign. It was the Hoard of the Dragon Queen and the Rise of Tiamat. This came out right around the launch of 5th edition. And the second one that they released is actually Princes of the Apocalypse, which came out, I think, back in April. So this was the second campaign. Now, with the Tyranny of Dragons campaign, I had talked about this before, so I'm not going to go into any great details, but it was a very sort of linear campaign, which is great, I think, for people who are new to the game. It gives them an idea of how to run campaigns. But it was kind of like a point A to point B type of campaign. Princes of the Apocalypse was kind of a huge step up as far as that goes, because it had a more open-ended design to it that allowed you to, or allowed the players, I guess, to sort of go at their own pace or follow their own leads, and you know, you may take things in different orders than other groups, or there are things that you may completely miss that other groups have gone through. Another great thing about this particular campaign was it was designed in such a way that you could probably easily fit it into other campaign settings. So, you know, like, they even had a section in it here. Let's see if I can find it. But they actually had a whole section of the campaign which was dedicated to basically modifying it for other campaign settings. So, and I don't remember exactly where that is, so I'm not going to go looking through it too much just to find that. But it was nice that they had the ability, you know, if you didn't want to run it in the Forgotten Realms, that you could essentially just run it in any of the other campaign settings, and there was a lot of information on how you could do that, which was, I thought, was pretty cool. So that was that one. Now we have Out of the Abyss. First of all, one of the reasons I was really looking forward to this involved a lot of, like, the early promotional information, as well as the CG video that they created. One of the things that was featured prominently, I think, in both of those was actually the character of Drizzt, who is one of my favorite characters. I love all the Salvatore novels. I haven't picked up Archmage yet, but I do plan on doing that as soon as I get paid next. But, you know, I really love the character, and I was looking forward to actually, you know, running a campaign where, you know, he may be an NPC that the players come across, and maybe, you know, in a crazed state, because the premise of the story is that there's this madness sweeping the Underdark, and that Drizzt was caught up in it. And you see that as part of like the promotional video. You see Drizzt featured in it quite prominently, actually, and at one point he does look like he's fallen under the madness. So I was looking forward to that. I watched the Acquisitions Incorporated live gameplay from, I think, PAX Prime, where they encountered Drizzt, and it was like an awesome video. If you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend it. So you can find it just on the regular Dungeons & Dragons YouTube channel. It's absolutely fantastic, but it was a huge part of what I was looking forward to in this adventure, and he's not in it. So I'm just gonna, you know, cut to the chase. Unless I missed it, Drizzt is not in this. You can probably incorporate him if you want to, but like I was kind of, again, hoping to have him like statted out and things like that. Another one of the things that I noticed right off the bat, just reading through it very quickly, is, well, first of all, one of the things that I would have liked to have seen in this is completely missing, is a adventure synopsis. So there's no adventure synopsis whatsoever. It immediately starts you with the campaign. So that little, you know, couple paragraphs that just explains the progression of the story would have been really nice. I find those useful, especially for doing these first impressions video. This is kind of more back to the linear style, less like Prince of the Apocalypse and more like the Tyranny of Dragons. The campaign actually begins at first level with the characters essentially already slaves, so they've already been captured by Drow. And, you know, you break out and you travel through the Underdark for quite some time. So a lot of the early campaign takes place in the Underdark as the player characters struggle to just to get back to the surface type of thing. There's a lot of, looks like what could be some very interesting encounters or some campaign set pieces that do take place in this. Like there's a Kuatoa city with, well, I actually have a picture of the shrine there, which is pretty cool. But there's quite a few events that, for example, if you don't go to the Kuatoa city, or if you try to avoid it, you know, you can miss some significant things. Actually, that's where you see one of the things that's prominent in this campaign, which is where it's called Out of the Abyss. Basically, a series of demon lords have been unleashed into the Underdark, and it's their presence that's causing this madness that's basically sweeping all throughout. Again, I haven't read it thoroughly, so I don't know exactly how things go. I know that there's the way that the rise of Demogorgon is portrayed is not actually accurate to what happened in the campaign. So it looks kind of like they set it up in one way to begin with, and then it turns out that something completely different has happened, and the players discover that as time goes on. They do eventually make it to the surface, and at that point they actually get summoned and have an audience with Bruenor Battlehammer. So they actually have him in there. So there are a few Salvatore characters that are in this. It's just the one that I was hoping for the most is the one that they didn't have in there. A good consolation, however, is that at some point in the campaign the characters do go to Menzoberranzan. And in Menzoberranzan they have the opportunity to meet my second favorite Salvatore character, which is Jarlaxle. He's not statted or anything, he's just sort of more of an information or exposition type of character. But they do have him in here, which is kind of cool. I always like Jarlaxle, so you know, any opportunity I get to roleplay him, I think will definitely be an interesting one. Overall, the campaign does seem interesting. I do actually look forward to running it, maybe more so than even something like Princes of the Apocalypse. You know, I've always liked the Underdark. I've always incorporated Drow into a lot of my homebrewed campaigns, so you know, having a complete Underdark campaign is totally fine with me. I don't mind it whatsoever. Looks like, again, there's going to be some really fantastic encounters in it. One of the interesting things is, again, there's a series of demon lords that have been unleashed in Faerun. So one of the things that happens late in the game, and this is like a big spoiler section, so if you don't want any spoilers on the story, then, you know, perhaps I should have prefaced this at the very beginning, but if you don't want any spoilers, you probably shouldn't have watched this to begin with, so I do apologize. But you should probably stop watching it as of now if you don't want any spoilers on how it basically goes. But essentially, the final end game of the campaign has player characters completing a ritual to basically summon all the demon lords to a particular area where they have this gigantic battle. And what's interesting about it is, the way that the campaign's designed, they actually want the players to have different demon lords that they control throughout the combat. So you'd give one maybe the stats for Baphomet. I don't know if you'd give a Demogorgon or not, but there's, quite a few of them here. Grazit, Jubilex, Orcus, amongst others, and you basically have this huge melee with them all. And then at some point, the DM just jumps in with Demogorgon, who takes charge, basically kills a couple of them in flavor text, so it just kind of like, however the combat goes, Demogorgon just comes in and basically owns everything, and the final encounter takes place with Demogorgon, basically. It's an interesting approach. I think it might be a lot of fun to have the players control these demon lords type of thing. I almost would have liked it to have been more like Princes of the Apocalypse, where you have the chance to maybe stop some of them from emerging into Faerun, or there are certain ones, depending on how the players go through it, that they end up fighting over others. So instead of just having them all kind of spill forth, maybe they can do something to stop, like Jubilix from being summoned, basically, or things like that. So it would have been interesting to have a little bit more control over the story in that manner. However, I mean, all in all, I think it is an interesting looking campaign. I would prefer to run this one, I think, even over Prince of the Apocalypse, even though, again, Prince of the Apocalypse is a little more open-ended and the players have a bit more input as to how the events play out. But I've always preferred, having like demons and devils and drow and stuff like that in the campaign. So this pretty much has all of that. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be the most outstanding of all three of the campaigns to be released so far. I still think that perhaps the structure and the way that the Prince of the Apocalypse is presented might be sort of the best designed and written overall. This one was actually done by Green Ronin. And at the back of the book, it actually has some advertisements for like some of the Green Ronin stuff. So they did contract obviously another company to develop the campaign. So I mean, really to date, the only things that have been done specifically by Wizards of the Coast have just been right now the core books and the DM screen. Everything else has been pretty much another company that they've allowed to produce campaigns for them. This campaign also runs once again from 1st to 15th level. You begin first level as drow slaves. Now the campaign or the adventure does say that if you think that being at first level might be a bit too challenging, you do have the option of starting them at second or third. They should gain second or third by the end of the first chapter, but if you want to start them off at a slightly higher level, you can certainly do that. The one thing that I do kind of worry about when it comes to the breakout scenario is, and again, I haven't read it thoroughly, so this is just a first impression, but it's possible that the escape that the player characters do could be instrumented by the NPCs that are also slaves currently. So there's a bunch of them they show pictures of at the top. So it may be a little bit railroaded by the other NPCs kind of driving that initial thing. The player characters may not know how to necessarily escape, or may not come up with an idea, unfortunately. So it's something that it may be a bit linear, like a bit again railroaded, or the story may be a bit forced in the beginning. For example, there's this ritual that takes place in the Kuatoa city, which I believe is the third or fourth chapter, the third chapter, and the players very well could decide to circumvent it altogether, because I mean they may not want to go into a city full of Kuatoa, but the way that it's, at least just as a flip through, it looks like they're going to go there, they're going to get caught, they're going to be part of this ritual, and then they're going to see the rise of Demogorgon. So I don't know if it's necessarily as open-ended as I might like, or as more experienced groups may like. If you're running for new characters or new players and you're having a hard time getting your hands on the Tyranny of Dragons books, then this may be a pretty good scenario to kind of start off with. But again, I don't know how open-ended it really is for experienced players who don't want to necessarily feel like they're forced to walk down a particular path, which this, at least as written, or as not as written I should say, but as it appears just through a cursory glance, it does look like it is a bit scripted out, and the players looks like they're going to go to certain locations, whether they expect it to or not. So again, that very well could change on a thorough read-through. That's just sort of a general first impression of it. It does look a bit more, again, like I said, a bit more scripted than something like Prince of the Apocalypse, which allows the player characters to control things by, they may ally with one of the cults over some of the others, or they may not even realize they're working for one of the cults when they go after certain other ones. And the groups that they, or the areas that they go to in a particular order actually dictate, which of the big elemental lords they faced in this one. So again, something like that would have been interesting in this, depending on which, way the player characters go, which method that they go through. It could have dictated maybe another demon lord that they would have faced, or that they could have prevented from coming to the to Faerun before the big showdown with Demogorgon. I don't have any issues with Demogorgon being the final encounter. That's totally fine by me. I do like Demogorgon, but it would have been interesting to have had more input with the other demon lords before that happens. And again, there's a chance that you do have the option to do that. It just doesn't look like it at a quick flip through. So it seems like they all just end up being there, and you have that final showdown at the end. The final showdown, again, is an interesting idea. I would look forward to having the player characters control different demon lords, and just having this great big, monstrous battle. I think that's actually, a lot of fun. While their characters, they may just sit out of it, or they may, even try to sway things one way or the other. So that could be a really interesting encounter, and one that I do look forward to running at some point. Now, one thing I do want to talk about is the price point. So it is $49.95 US, which is pretty much the standard price. Like that was the price that Prince of the Apocalypse was, for example. My issue is that I'm not living in the US, so I live in Canada, and the Canadian price is $63.95. The Canadian dollar has kind of taken a tumble, and like that's a bit of an issue, because the price for Prince of the Apocalypse, it was $58 when it came out. So even again, like I've always said, that the US to Canadian prices do seem a bit steep for Canadians, but this was $58 for something that was $49.95. This is still $49.95, and now it's $64. So it's one of those things that, again, I don't think this is going to be purchased a lot in stores if they're selling it at this particular price. I ordered mine online before the change in the dollar occurred, so when I had ordered it, it was still at the $58 retail point. But as time went on, of course, before this actually even got printed, the price went up to $63.95 if you're Canadian. So I ordered mine online, again, like I said, through Kohl's, and I think it cost me about $37 altogether. It's up to, I think, about $40 now for the online orders, but if you live in Canada, again, unfortunately, I think that's the way that it's going to end up selling, is through online orders, or the retail shops that get them are going to have to sell them at less than the cover price in order to actually get them to move, I think. So other than that, again, this is just a first impression. I'm going to sit down and do a more thorough reading of this particular campaign. So it's not, nothing that I say here is necessarily definitive, and things may be completely different when I actually have a chance to read through it more thoroughly. Like I said, all I did was kind of flip through it, look at some of the set pieces, and that's just, like I said, I want to just do a quick video with the first impressions, so I haven't had a chance to do anything more than just really a cursory glance. I plan on doing my full review of this, hopefully having it out by next week. So it'll give me a chance to take some time and read through it. Anyway, again, that was just a first impression video. I hope it kind of helped if you were on the fence about this one. And again, stay tuned for my full review, which should be up in about a week's time. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, YouTube.